Agreed. Totally agree. Why don't we start? So again, we've talked about food is the foundation of good health, the foundation of all health, even poor health. It starts with food. So food, it's really important to understand food. And why don't we start with just the name of the food, not the brand, but when people, the name of the food, when people are at a store or online shopping for food, pet food, and they see a name, what's in the name? Help us orient us a little bit. Teach us about the name of the pet food.
So the name is really key. I'm going to just back up a little bit first, and I just want to let people understand one main thing. So that pet food labeling is regulated at two levels, you guys. It's regulated by federal regulations enforced by the FDA, who also regulates human food, and the Association of American Feed Control Officials. So that's a mouthful. So we use the acronym AFCO. And you'll see AFCO on the bags, any food bag. So just so that you know, two regulators, it's the FDA and AFCO. All right, now let's jump into the significance of a name. And what I'm referring to, and I'm just going to use one of our bags because that's easiest, okay? I'm referring to the name here, Real Turkey and Sweet Potato Recipe. We're going to talk about this one, okay? There are 4 rules that you guys need to know about, all right? There is the 95% rule, and this applies to products that consist of very few ingredients and therefore have very simple names. So, for instance, if a food was named beef dog food or tuna fish cat food, at least 95% of the product must be in the named ingredient. So in this case, beef or tuna fish. This is not counting the added water for processing and any condiments, if you will, that are added. And the ingredients must be listed in order of predominance by weight in the product. So for example, the product couldn't be named chicken and salmon for cats if there's more salmon than chicken. Okay, so that's the 95% rule. Most don't go necessarily by that rule in pet food. So let's talk about now the ones that you're going to see most often. The 25% rule, okay? So this applies to many canned and dry food products, and it applies to the named ingredients. The named ingredients must make up at least 25% of the product, but less than 95% of the product. So in this case, the name must include a qualifying descriptive term such as dinner, entree, formula, recipe. So ours is a recipe, and we have turkey and sweet potato. So here, let's see, each of the named ingredients must be at least 3%. And when you look at our bag, the turkey and sweet potato, using the 25% rule, the descriptive term is recipe. The combination of the ingredients, turkey and sweet potato, must have at least 25% turkey and sweet potato combined. And the sweet potato must have at least 3%. Okay, so 25% combined. And the second one, so if I put parsley in here and I said, okay, it's turkey and parsley was only at 0.5%, can't be in the name. Okay. If we were to have named this sweet potato and turkey recipe, it would have more sweet potato than turkey, but at least 3% turkey. So watch for that, you guys, because there's a lot of companies that do that. They have a lot less meat than you think because it's in the name. So you think that they have plenty of meat, right? And you can double check this by turning over the bag and looking at the ingredient panel. And the ingredient panel will tell you in order of what is listed in your bag. Okay, it is listed in descending order of what's in there. So our first ingredient is turkey. Okay, now the 3% rule, or we call this the with rule. This enables manufacturers to point out the presence of minor ingredients that weren't added in a large quantity or a sufficient quantity to merit a dinner claim, which is the 25%, right? So if it was, if I wanted to call out sweet potatoes, but I couldn't put it in that whole, turkey and sweet potato recipe because it didn't meet the 25% rule or the 3%, then you go to the with rule. So if you see the term, a lot of times people want to call out things like someone will call out with cranberries. because cranberries are really good for bladder issues, and consumers know that, and marketers know that, right? So you will know if it says with cranberries, there is at least 3% cranberries in that product. This can be confusing though, right? So here's a few examples. Chicken dog food contains at least 95% chicken. Dog food with chicken contains only 3% chicken because of the word with. So these are just things that you need to know. The word with and the word contains. If it said with chicken, it's 3%. If it says contains chicken, it's 3%. Contains and with mean the same thing in labeling. Now, let's move on to the flavor rule, okay? Flavor. If you see something says cranberry flavored soft drink or whatever, orange flavored, there's no specific percentage required for that flavor rule, but the product must contain an amount sufficient to be able to be detected when tested, right? So an example would be chicken flavor dog food. Really not something you really want. So if you see the word flavor, that just means that there's usually 1% or less of that named ingredient in the product. So is that confusing?
I think it's helpful. I mean, it's honestly a little confusing, but only because it is a confusing topic. And I think you've done a really great job, Brooke, of simply explaining for us, who many of us probably had no idea. I'm reading some of the comments, and many of us, honestly had no idea the nuances and the intricacies. And so it is important to understand so that we understand what we're paying for and what we're getting in a food. And something that just has the word chicken on the top of the, on the package doesn't mean it's the same thing as something else that has chicken somewhere on the front of the package. They can mean very different things, as you pointed out.
And this applies so that, since the FDA rules pet food, right? They regulate pet food, they regulate human food. These same rules apply for human food. So when you go to the grocery store next to you guys and you're buying some packaged product, read and see what it says. I was just kind of looking around at some frozen dinners, I don't know, whenever this was. And I remember seeing something that said with chicken meat or something, or chicken rib meat or something like that. And I was like, okay, that means there's only 3%, even though they're showing a beautiful piece of chicken in the picture on the package, there was not that amount of chicken in the food. Exactly. So it's just interesting how that works, and you'll start looking at things very differently if you remember these things that I'm telling you.
Awesome. Well, let's switch to another part of the package, which is what people often call the claims. I know I've heard that word before. Some of us as pet parents have probably heard that word before. Claims. What claims does this particular bag of food represent? So tell us about the claims.
Okay. So we have lots of claims. Those of you who are new to poultry, we make 20 claims on our packaging, and it can go anywhere from an ingredient to, where it's made to, like, for instance, no corn, no wheat, no soy. Our grain-free symbol over here is another claim, right? So we have claims on our front package. We have claims on the back of our package in this area here. We have a lot of claims here. Okay. But a claim is a statement, basically, that's just made on a package that tells you what's special or different about this product. What does the company want you to know? And a claim can be descriptive about an ingredient or about the nutrition it provides. So, for example, when we say real turkey, right here, real turkey is the first ingredient, and no poultry byproducts. That's another one that we have on here, right? You can check these things by going to, sorry for all the noise, you guys, by going to the ingredients. If I'm saying real turkey is the first ingredient, I'll turn it over and see that in the ingredient statement, it better say that turkey is the first ingredient, or my claim is not real, okay? We also have other claims, let's see, like contains taurine to support heart health right here. Okay, so with that claim, you might see information about it in the guaranteed analysis, because we must put in an amount of taurine that substantiates that claim, And that information goes through the scrutiny of regulatory attorneys to make sure what we say we're doing, we are doing. So that is the claim. So you want to pay attention to the claims on whatever package, but we'll just keep it to pet food right now, right? And this is what the manufacturer wants to tell you and help you understand what they're doing that's good for your pet. Okay, so I mentioned some of the claims, I pointed them out. So we have like balanced calcium and phosphorus for bone and tooth health, contains taurine to support heart and eye health, a natural source of DHA, which supports healthy brain development and overall brain health, like brain development for when they're in their growth stage or puppy stage, right? And overall brain health when they are older than a puppy. Contains omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids for healthy skin and coat. That's huge, okay? A good source of natural glucosamine to help maintain joint health, and contains prebiotics to support a healthy digestive tract. Adding the nutrition needed to make these claims, as I mentioned in the last segment, but when a company makes all these claims, it costs money. So often many companies don't make the claims. In fact, what you'll find is you're going to see most of the claims, any company, when you're walking a pet food aisle, you're going to see most of their claims on the front of their bag. Why is that? Because they want to attract you over to the shelf to look at their bag. I never intend for you to turn it over, so therefore they don't have claims on the back of the bag, generally speaking. I'm not going to say nobody does, but generally speaking, they don't. And they don't therefore spend the money to make claims, right? So we're not on a shelf. So we want to give you the best nutrition possible. So we make as many claims as we can and put as much goodness or good nutrition in our food to make sure that you guys are getting the best nutrition for your pets, and you're going to see the most difference in your pets as they eat our food. Okay, I mentioned you can't make up a claim. There's research behind every single one of them to understand the nutrients and the amounts needed for each claim. And as I said, we have to go through regulatory attorneys to make sure and prove that what we're saying is actually going to work. When we formulated our poultry food, we looked at the issues that are most important to pet parents when deciding on what claims to make, because we feel that consumers should not have to choose what's more important for their pets. It's all important, right? So our claims, and number of them, 20 claims that we have, set us apart from other brands. We address the most important things for good pet health. We don't make pet parents choose what's more important, because all of these issues are important. Heart and eye health are not more important than bone and tooth health, are not more important than a healthy brain, aren't more important than a healthy skin and coat, or joint health, or a healthy digestive system. All of these things are important, and all of these things are the top issues that actually people go to see pet parents take their pets to the vet for. And this one, we learned this through what kinds of health insurance claims are put through. So this concurs with what the vets are saying are the most important issues, as well as what the insurance companies are telling us are the most important issues that they pay claims on.
It's amazing, and it really does support, Brooke. I mean, what you're saying just further supports the idea that you've probably heard me or your pet pro, or you've heard Brooke say before, which is we are uncompromising. And this is just another example of how we are uncompromising, in that we don't make a pet parent choose which of these claims is most important to them and buy that food for this claim or this food for that claim. We put all of the goodness in the food so that all of these 20 claims that we make on our food are represented, and a pet parent doesn't have to choose. It's just one further way of illustrating this idea of being uncompromising in our approach to nutrition, which is at the heart of why I founded the company. So that's really helpful, Brooke. So we've learned a little bit about the name of the food. We've learned a little bit about the claims, what people can and can't say, and why they pick and choose things to put on the package, and why we've not picked and chosen. We've just put everything in the product so that the pet parent doesn't have to compromise, and the pet doesn't have to compromise. Let's talk for a moment about another part of the package that I think all of us are probably familiar with this section of the package, but we honestly, probably most of us don't really fully know what it means. And that's the guaranteed analysis. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's really important because a lot of people know of it, but I don't think they know how to read it, okay, or to really look at it. So the guaranteed analysis is on every package, and it's this area here on our package and other people, obviously, but it says guaranteed analysis, okay? And at a minimum, the guaranteed analysis will show you the minimum percentages of crude protein and crude fat and the maximum percentages of crude fiber and moisture. And anything else AFCO requires, for example, they do require taurine for cats, okay? The way I remember it, you guys, having done this for a while, I just think about, so you have protein, fat, fiber, moisture. Protein and fat, so it's protein is a min, fat is a min. So min, max. That's how I think of it when we're putting together packaging or whatever, if that helps you. Okay, so this recipe guarantees 30% protein, crude protein, which means that there's more than 30% of this protein actually in the formula because it's a minimum, right? So we say that there's a minimum of 30%, but there's actually more than that to make sure that we hit that minimum, right? And also, I'm using this term crude, okay? The term crude refers to the specific method of testing the product, not the quality of the nutrient itself. It's just the rules that we have to go by with AFCO. Okay, guarantees for other nutrients are here as well, okay? So you have your protein, fat, fiber, and moisture, and then there's other stuff listed. Some places won't even have anything else listed, okay? But for this product, we guarantee calcium and phosphorus because we make the claim balanced calcium and phosphorus for bone and tooth health up here in these claims, okay? So whatever we say on our claims has to be true and listed either in here or listed here to prove, what we're doing, okay? Taurine, because we make the claim, contains taurine to support heart and eye health. Now, I want you guys to understand something about taurine because the whole DCM issue with, large dogs generally having heart issues, okay? That's what DCM is. The idea behind DCM is that pets are not getting enough taurine. And so when people have taken our bags, this really has surprised me, Roger. People take our bags in and they're like, here, doctor, this is what I'm feeding my pet. And they take a look at the bag and they say, oh, no, there's not enough taurine in here. There's only a little bit of taurine in this product. See, it's listed right here. That's not how you read the package, okay? The amount of taurine, we have tons of taurine in there. We have to, because we have a lot of meat, taurine comes from animal meat. So meat is our first ingredient. So of course we have a lot of taurine in our product. However, the amount of taurine here that's listed is purely to show, is purely so we can make the claim about taurine contains taurine to support heart and eye health. These do not tell you the exact amounts that are in the bag. And I want people to understand that because we have gotten so many calls basically saying, well, your food doesn't have enough taurine and my vet doesn't want me on your food because of that. And they're just not understanding. And so I just want you guys to know you have the benefit here. Normally, I'll try and call people to help them understand because I just, make the choice that you want to make, but make it with an educational, make an educated choice. Okay. Let's see, DHA. So DHA will be on this package because we make the claim natural source of DHA supports healthy brain development and overall brain health. Omega-3 and omega-6s, the fatty acids, they're on here because we say contains omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids for a healthy skin and coat. And glucosamine is also on here because we make the claim up here and you have the guarantee here. Glucosamine, a good source of natural glucosamine to help maintain joint health. So that's how you want to look at a guaranteed analysis, okay? And also by looking at your ingredient statement, you want to, this is going to tell you exactly what's in your product. And again, everything has a min or a max next to it, so you have to look at that as well. If it's a min, there's more of it in there. If it's a max, there's less of it in there. Okay. I think you want me, I'm going to move on to the ingredient statement. So,
okay, sure. Yeah, and I was just going to mention, Kimberly Taylor had a question. I think it was pretty well answered by others, but just to clarify, she asked if she had a pet that was feeding the amount of food that was listed on the package and gaining weight, and said, is that because the food is so nutritionally dense? And the food is nutritionally dense, so what the pets consume, far more of it goes into the body, and the digestive, allows those wonderful healthy ingredients to actually function in the body because it's nutritionally dense and it doesn't just get all pooped out the back. But in terms of gaining weight, you can use the guidelines on the packages or a general guideline. If you fill out a pet profile on our website, it's even more accurate because we know more about your pet. And but a very good rule of thumb to always use is if your pet is gaining weight, feed a little less, or if your pet is losing weight, feed a little more. If you've got the right recipe, sometimes that just literally those fine tunings can be done just pet by pet, just by observing. So those are some comments there. But yes, Brooke, let's go on to ingredient statements.
Okay, let me touch on that just so we finish that part of it, because I know I'm going to talk about this later anyway, but I'll just do it now. The feeding guidelines on anybody's package, not just Pawtree's, anybody's package, are general guidelines. And above the feeding guidelines, it tells you that these are generalized guidelines, and it's, basically it's based on, there are things that we don't know, as Roger said. We don't know the activity of your pet, the age of your pet. There's so many questions. So these are guidelines. Most often, this is too much to feed. Okay, so and this is on anybody's package. So what Roger is saying, use this as a guideline. If you're coming from another food where for instance, where you used to feed a cup a day, okay, with our food, you may only have to feed 3/4 of a cup a day because ours is more nutritionally dense than most foods that are out there. But you have to kind of use it as the guide. If your pet is starving, you give them a little more food. If they're losing weight, you give them a little more food. If they've gained weight, you give them a little less food. And just use these as a guide. But these are 100% not intended to, they're just guidelines, not intended to be completely accurate.
Wonderful. And Brooke, before we go on, there's one other question I think would be worthwhile. And I agree. Jay Langdon asked a question, and I totally agree, Jay. It's like, why wouldn't you just do that? Jay was mentioning, I think this is back when you were talking about the taurine, and we put, we don't, the guaranteed analysis doesn't say here's what's in it. The guaranteed analysis says here's the max in some cases, here's the minimum in some cases. But his question is, why don't you just put on the exact amount, of taurine, to maybe avoid that confusion where vets go, oh, there's not enough or so forth. Why is it that it's done this way?
Because of the rules. These are the regulatory rules, the packaging rules that we have to follow. So everybody does it this way. This is the way it's been set up by the FDA and AFCO. So we don't have a choice in the matter to tell you that, right? We have to.
Basically, when it comes to taurine, taurine as a stated requirement, you have to put what the minimum amount of taurine is. Is that right?
What the amount of taurine is, so taurine has a minimum. They all have different things.
But specifically on taurine, because I think Jay's question was, well, why don't, if we have more than what is showing on the package, and vets are confused because they look at the package and say, oh, the guaranteed analysis says a number that's too low, why don't we put the actual number? And I think because what you're saying, Brooke, is taurine is a minimum. You have to put what's the minimum amount that's going to be in any bag. And so generally speaking, what we do is on any minimums, we have a lot more in it than the minimum to be conservative. We want to always make sure that our product tests much higher than what the stated minimum is. And the same for the maximum. If it says a maximum, you can have more than something. We want to make sure that we're always very safely within those guidelines. So I think the other possibility, I guess, to what Jay's saying is, we could up that the amount that we to have a higher stated minimum, and risk times maybe testing. But go ahead, Brooke.
Yeah, no, where the confusion, and this is a really good question. So thank you for asking this. Where the confusion is these claims, other than the protein, fat, fiber, and moisture. Okay, other than that, these things that are guaranteed here have to do with the claims. So it doesn't have to do with how much total taurine is in here. It has to do with the claim contains taurine to support heart health. So I have to, so that's what this is guaranteeing the claim. Does that make sense? So it's not the total amount of taurine. I mean, truthfully, okay, so I will give you an example. Somebody was told by their vet that our stuff didn't have enough taurine, et cetera. And I was told by support about this, he was canceling and not going to use our food. That was fine. But when he was confused. And so, and he was an older gentleman, and doesn't matter, young, old, but he basically, this was his last dog. He wanted to make sure he was doing the right thing. So when I was in the office, I said, hey, Sue, let's get this gentleman on the phone just so that he understands what the vet was saying, because what the vet told him was not correct. And so we got him on the phone, we talked to him, and I told him, I said, you choose whatever you want to feed. I'm just calling you to help you understand and educate you so that you understand why the vet was saying what he was saying. And I said, by the way, what did you switch to? And he told me the company and product that he switched to. And I looked them up real quick online. I said, they don't even have any claim for taurine here. So I said, so how much taurine is in that product? And he started thinking, he goes, and he actually switched back to Pottery. And that was not my intent. My intent was truly, honestly, I want you guys to make whatever decisions you want to make. Okay. I love Pottery. But not everybody, everybody likes different things. It's fine. I just want you to have the knowledge and to make the best decision you can make. And the vet was clearly not understanding packaging rules, and they don't.
Yeah, that's right. No criticism to vets. I mean, I am very, very good friends with dozens of vets, and they're the first to tell me, they're not packaging experts. They're not even nutrition experts, you guys. You think about our own human health. We go to different specialist doctors for different things. I would never go to, I've probably seen 4 different doctors this year for various different things. Somebody for my knee, somebody for my annual physical, a dentist. And so when you go to these doctors, you don't ask them about your nutrition choices. And most of them don't know anything about nutrition. And it's the same for our vets. And it's certainly the same for, understanding food packaging, these intricacies. This isn't their expertise. It is our expertise. We have to be really good at this and do it right and know what we're talking about. And so no ill will intended toward any veterinarian. No. It's just the nature of, they've got a really busy and full profession to take care of all the needs they need to take care of, and understanding food packaging, and claims and labels is not at the top of their list. It wouldn't be if I was a veterinarian either.
Yes, and so the takeaway on taurine, just so that you guys all understand, taurine comes from meat, and our number one ingredient is meat. There's a heck of a lot more taurine in our product than is listed here. This is just, all these things do is talk about our claims, substantiate our claims. Okay, so now I'll go on to the ingredient. I just wanted to make sure people understood, because it's very confusing, and the whole DCM issue is very scary, and we want you to make the best decision for your babies as possible. So we're behind you in that. Okay.
Hey, Brooke, I'm sorry. I saw one other question that might be helpful to address here.
Sure.
We're talking about the label, the packaging, and that is, if our nutrition has everything that a puppy needs, why does it not specifically say for puppies?
Oh, you're getting ahead of me, but okay.
Okay. We'll come back to that.
No. I'll talk to I'll talk that later, because it's part of a little bit broader.
We'll come back to it. I just didn't want to miss it, because once the comment goes, I have a hard time finding it again. So yes, we'll put a note to that. We'll come back to it.
It's a great question, you guys. Okay, so let's talk about the ingredient statement. Okay, the first and foremost, the ingredients are listed in order of inclusion in the formula. This is true for any feed products, such as food and treats. All ingredients on food and in treats that are considered feed according to AAFCO are listed in order of inclusion. So number 1 ingredient is turkey. And we name our product turkey and sweet potato. It all ties. You can look at the bag umpteen different ways, but it all ties together. Okay. Now, this label says, okay, it says turkey, and then it says turkey meal. dried peas, dried chickpeas, chicken fat, dried sweet potatoes, etc. So there's more turkey than there is turkey meal. There's more turkey meal than there is dried peas. There's more dried peas than there is dried chickpeas. Okay. The reason I bring that up is because when you get supplements, so here's one of our supplements, Brain Drops. A supplement, when it says product facts, this is not a feed, okay, considered a feed label. So we guarantee on here all the active ingredients, okay? Then you have your inactive ingredients, and you would say, well, okay, my inactive ingredients, brewer's yeast is the first one. Brewer's yeast there must be a lot of brewer's yeast in here, right? And why would there be a lot of brewer's yeast? That's not how it works here. On supplements that have product facts and active ingredients, the inactive ingredients are listed in alphabetical order. Not so brewer's yeast, it's because brewer's begins with a B, and that's the only trick to it, okay? So a feed or a supplement like this that says active ingredients listed in alphabetical order. In anything feed or a treat, I've got all kinds of things here, you guys. So in our treats just list the order in which they are here. So this is our freeze-dried beef, sweet potatoes, peas, and carrots. And our first ingredient is beef, then sweet potatoes, then peas, then carrots, in order of inclusion. Okay. Now, another thing is I mentioned that we said turkey meal. Some packages have on it meat meal. Let me explain what that could be. Okay. So you always want, when you read a label, you always want a named meat meal on the label. This way you know what's going in the bag. So chicken meal, turkey meal, lamb meal, salmon meal, all are really good because you know what animal that meal is coming from. But if you see it just says meat meal, put the bag down and walk away because you don't know what meat
from the package.
Yeah, you don't know what meat that could be. I mean, it could be roadkill, and I'm not kidding. It's allowed. There's a lot of things that are allowed, and I'm just saying. So when you don't have clarification of what something is, when they talk about like fat, if they say chicken fat, that's great. If they just say animal fat, no, I want to know what animal I'm getting, right? So you just need to be careful and watch for clarification. All right, so we've talked about ingredients, we've talked about the order, we talked about the active ingredients in a supplement. So how to see all these things, it's kind of confusing, right, Roger? Is this just too much?
No, it's not too much. Like I said, it can be confusing. I mean, it is confusing.
It is confusing.
Just, trying to learn all this. I think you're doing a really nice job breaking it down to help us understand, those of us who are passionate about our pets, we want to know, we want to do the right things. You're really doing a great job breaking this down. So, and there are a lot of rules, and it's important to follow all the rules. But it's also important as a consumer to understand how those rules impact what you think you're getting versus what you are getting.
Right. And what's interesting is we often get asked to compare products. I'm feeding this now, and how is Patri different? And I always say, don't play that game, because there's a lot more than that the ingredient says turkey, or the ingredient says salmon. Just because it's turkey and just because it's salmon on both labels does not mean that they are the same. There is a difference in the quality of the ingredients that are used as well. So there's specifications that when we specify what type, what kind, what grade, et cetera. So I often say, look, think of it this way. You go to the grocery store and you want to buy some beef. So you can get anything from ground chuck to rib roast and everything in between, right? You just have to point and pick what you want, right? It's all beef, but each cut is different, and each different cut has a different price tag. It's the same with pet food and in life, guys. You get what you pay for, and high quality. We spend a lot. We spend more than any company I have ever worked for. We spend more in our products but we put so much nutrition in our products. I mean, it's amazing. It's worth it. And quite honestly, I was seeing some of the comments, and people were saying, someone said that they had 18. I think they said they have 18 dogs, and that they're spending a lot less overall with poultry than they used to because of the the nutrient dense product that we provide you guys.
Not to mention the vet bills and other issues that come. I mean, it is kind of one of those, pay me now or pay me later kind of things. And, certainly we are very confident with what we have in our brand. We never compare our brand to others. We would never, say something bad about another brand of pet food. We want to empower you to make good decisions, and we are incredibly confident with what we have. And the way we go about our products, and and the way that we provide value for money, because it is like Brooke said, that you get what you pay for, and with most things in life, and it's no different with our pet food, and it's a lot of wonderful testimonials of people who, even if, because we put more into our product, even if there are more costs that are associated with putting more into the product, it also means they feed less because it's higher quality, more nutritionally dense, and like I said, fewer vet bills or vet visits or surgeries or other expensive things down the road. Hey, Brooke, I know we've got a few other topics and we're running a little short on time, but two things I want to comment on. One, there was a little bit of an exchange in the chat about a question on our allergy product. We will address that in the 2 p.m. session, which is all about allergies. So come back at 2 p.m. and ask us again so we don't forget to address it there. But we will definitely talk about that topic at the 2 p.m. Central session. And then there's another topic I think is very helpful that we address, Brooke, which is around meal. And you talked about getting a named meal, but let's talk even more generically about meal, because I do think it's a misperception that a lot of people have, that when they see meal, chicken meal, turkey meal, salmon meal, whatever, even a named meal in a food, that they think, oh, that's bad. I think some people may incorrectly associate meal with byproduct. Those are totally two separate things. But help us understand, what is meal? Why is a named meal not only okay, but desirable in a pet food like it is in ours?
So meal is really a good thing. When I say that, turkey meal, salmon meal, chicken meal, those are all good things. They're named meat meals. Meat meal, regular meat meal, no, if it just says just a generic meat. But meal is a good thing, because meal is just basically meat that's rendered. They take out the water, they take out the fat, and it's more in a
dry powder.
It's more like a powder. And basically the meal provides a lot of protein, and you need that protein. We could not have a food that just says turkey, which is the whole turkey, right? Which has the water weight, et cetera, in it. We couldn't put enough protein in with just plain turkey. We have to have a meal to help give you the desired protein that we need. So meal is a good thing, a named meal. If it says byproduct meal, that's not so good, or not as good, right? So we don't use any byproducts, period. So you just, but if it says turkey byproduct meal, probably not something I would want to have my pet eating. And to be truthful, just, read a little bit more of the label. I'll bet you there's some more things that you see that you might not want your pet to have. So, but bottom line is, meal is a good thing, a named meat meal, and it helps build your protein and give the amount of protein that your pets need to thrive.
Brooke, I'm not a chef, so I'm getting way out of my league here. So if this is wrong, just tell me it's wrong. I don't mind at all. But my naive, non-chef, science, mind says that meal. If you think about making something, if you're going to make and bake something, if you're baking a cookie, you put flour in. You need something to help bind the product. And if you just take a chicken breast or a turkey breast or a duck breast and put it in with other vitamins and minerals that we put in the food, it wouldn't bake into the kibble. And the meal is kind of like the flour, but it's a protein-based, meat-based flour, so to speak, that helps bind the product together. Is that correct for the layperson to think of it that way, Brooke?
No, that's a perfect way. It's a perfect way to think about it. Remember, the outcome of this is we want to kibble, and we need something that will hold together. So certain ingredients do act as binders and do help do that. And I would probably say that the meal, the turkey or chicken meal, whatever, probably does do that as well. As part of its function to make sure that you can create that end product, which is the delicious kibble that your pets love.
Wonderful. Now, this is a little bit of a side. It's not specifically on the food label, but I do think I'd love to just take 2 seconds and then let's get you back on the last couple topics and get off. Let's see, there was I can't see the name now, it just got hidden, but what ingredient in pottery makes my dog get eye crusties? And I know some dogs do get eye crusties and some don't. And I suspect it's not an ingredient that does that. It's probably more about that pet or the environment or their sensitivity to allergies or other things, but I didn't want that to go unnoticed. Any quick comment on that, Brooke, before we get back to packaging?
I want to know more from this consumer. There's not an ingredient that I would tell you that would cause that, right? So if your pet was on a different food and then switched to poultry and is now having the issue on poultry and didn't have it with the other food, then we can look at the different labels. But that's probably honestly more of like a seasonal thing that's going on, or something that's going on with them internally, a genetic thing, et cetera. It may be, again, if you switch from one food to then poultry and it's happening, I'm really doubting that it's an ingredient. It could just be coincidence that they're having some sort of an allergy issue or something like that. So it's not an ingredient that causes eye crusties. I would not put something in your food that would do that.
That makes sense. And honestly, even in my own household, I know, at different times and different seasons and what's blowing in the wind and other things, certain family members get more teary or more, crusties or et cetera. But okay, well, we've got very limited time. Do you want to talk about comparing canned food and dry food? That's something I think sometimes people don't realize that even if they have some of the same things listed, you really can't compare a canned food and a dry food in terms of guaranteed analysis and other things. Do you want to comment on that briefly?
I'll just do real quick. So on food, okay, you cannot compare apples to apples, one label to a next or to another. So this is our dry food, and on the canned label, there's something else listed. You'll notice on canned food that the protein and other nutrients are much lower on canned products. And this can be explained purely by the moisture content. So canned foods typically contain between 78% and 82% moisture, but dry foods only contain between 10 and 12%. Big gap, 78 to 82, 10 to 12, right? So to compare the two, they need to be expressed on the same moisture basis. You can calculate this, but a very quick way to remember is just multiply the guarantees for the canned food times 4. Because sometimes it'll say, like, I don't know, it might say protein of 7. It's really not 7. Think of it as 7 times 4 or 28%. It all has to do with the water content. And honestly, don't be fooled by this. Canned food usually has more protein than dry.
Okay, Brooke, I want to go to a couple other questions because these are these are genuine questions people have, and so let's take first one from Michelle Ramirez. Does meal contain hormone producing organs? Many raw feeders have spent a lot of time researching that and want those organs in their foods. And can you help explain that concept? How do we that the organ meat and
I would say most probably yes. Like liver and heart and things like that are very nutritious. I would say yes, those are important, and that's important for raw feeders. They love that kind of those types of things because they're extremely nutritious. So I would say,
those in the meal, like, is that typically in a meal? Those organ meats.
It should be. It's part of, they're getting it from I would say yes, they're getting it from the whole animal. They're making the meal, rendering, et cetera. So yeah, I would say yes.
It's part of that. And then a different question, but from Joe Wilkins, She says, what is it people talk about when they talk about companies using sick animals, roadkill, euthanized animals, etc.? Is that non-named meat meal? Or what is that? Help us understand that so we know whether we should be worried and how do we identify that?
There's many things that you are allowed to use in pet food. I have an AFCO manual. My manual's in the other room. It is like yay thick. Okay,
Yep.
It's crazy busy, but there are things that you can use. I'll give you an example with beef. Okay, with beef, you're allowed to use dead. So there's 1D, 2D, 3D, 4D beef. Okay, dead, dying, down, and diseased. Those are the 4Ds. Okay, some companies think, well, I'll just use 1D or 2D, or some companies may use the 4D. It all has to do with cost and quality. That's what I talked about. Not all beef is the same, right? So yes, there are things allowed in pet food, not in our products, but there are things allowed in pet food that other companies can use for sure.
They're very, so that's why I think for those of you who pet foods can legally, pet brands can legally use those sources as meat for their pet food. We don't use those sources of meat for our pet food, and but I don't think, Brooke, that's what a non-named meat meal necessarily implies. It may or it may not. Is that true?
May or may not. Right. May or may not. Right.
Okay, excellent. We've got just a couple more minutes, Brooke. Is there anything else you wanted to hit that you think is very relevant on packaging and helping all of these wonderful people in our pet community to understand how to read packaging and make sure they know what they're really getting when it comes to what they're paying for and what they're actually providing their pets?
Yeah, I want to get to the puppy question because we've been asked that a lot, and that takes us to our nutritional adequacy statement. Okay, you can find that on every single bag, and it says it's right here on ours. Okay, nutritional adequacy statement, and it says, Patri real turkey and sweet potato recipe is formulated to meet the nutrient levels established by the AFCO dog food nutrient profiles for growth and maintenance. So there's a few things going on here, okay? Another way, the alternative way, there's only two ways to substantiate a product is by doing actual feeding protocols, feeding trial protocols. And this is what some people are talking about from the cruelty, aspect or whatever, this is what they're referring to. So this is where the food has been fed to dogs or cats under strict guidelines and found to provide proper nutrition. So that nutritional adequacy statement would read, animal feeding tests using AFCO procedures substantiate that the name of the product provides complete and balanced nutrition. Regardless of which method is used, the nutritional adequacy statement also states for which life stage the product is for. Okay, this is where your puppy thing comes in. Growth, the word growth, and this is substantiated for maintenance or growth and maintenance. Growth is for puppies and is for kittens. Growth means puppies, growth means kittens. They're just words that we have to use because that's what AFCO tells us we have to use. Okay. So if it says growth on the bag, it's formulated for puppies or kittens. It doesn't have to be called out on the front of the bag. So just because we're not calling it out on the front of the bag doesn't mean that puppies can't have this, okay? Maintenance is for adult dogs and cats, and that includes senior dogs and cats. It's for their entire adult life stage. So some companies can, if something is good for growth and maintenance, it's good for puppies and it's good for older dogs, they could take the same formula, put it in one bag, call it puppy, big on the front, puppy, and then could make another bag, same formula, and it's for adults. And that's how you get shelf space, okay? Right. Doing stuff like that. Ours is good for both. We say it on the back of the bag in the nutritional adequacy statement. We don't, put marketing claims against it on the front of the bag. We don't need to because it's on the back of the bag. But if you guys know how to read your bags now, you will see this. This is any bag, okay? You will see the term growth or the term maintenance. and you understand what that's for now. Growth is for puppies and kittens. Maintenance is for adult dogs and adult cats. Also, when a product is labeled, this product is intended for intermittent supplemental feeding only, okay? Which it says on treats. Treats are a treat. You're not supposed to eat this day and night for every meal, right? It's intended for intermittent or supplemental feeding only. That means that it's more of a treat and it's not complete and balanced. Like ours says here, the food is complete and balanced. It's not a complete and balanced food, and it's not intended for the sole nourishment of the animal. So treats, supplements, or snacks are for intermittent feeding. Food is complete and balanced.
Now, because we've got to wrap so we can have everybody take a break before our next one in 5 minutes.
Yes.
I just want to echo one thing that Brooke said about this puppy and adult, and it really is. It comes back to our belief in we want to do the right thing for the pet, and we want to do the right thing for the pet parent. And in our past lives, when we were selling products to retail stores, and it was all about the shelf space, you do see a lot of companies market their food to different audiences. They might put something that say for cats and put the same thing in a different package and say for dogs and market it in two different parts of the store. Or like Brooke said, something for puppies and then say for adults, and it's the same product, but a different marketing kind of image on the front. And the reason we don't do that is we want to make it easier for you as a pet parent. Once you know you've got the right product, we don't want you to have to buy two if it can actually feed both your dog, your young puppy, and your older dog. Now, you might actually need to, depending on what you tell us about your pet in the pet profile. You may actually get recommended two different foods, but may not also. And so hopefully that helps you to, again, this session is all about empowering you to feel more confident as pet parents, to feel good about what you're doing, to ask the right questions, to be informed so that you can do the best you can for your pet and help your pet and yourself live a happy and wonderful life together. Brooke, you've got one more thing to say, it looks like.
I do. I just wanted to show you. So for instance, just to back up what Roger's saying, on our supplements, if you have a dog and cat icon, or it says for dogs and cats, it's for dogs and cats. So we don't make you buy two different things or spend twice as much money. You can feed them both. If it says if there's one icon for a dog and it's just for dog, then it's just for dogs. Okay. But
okay. We got to wrap.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay. So you guys join us. Brooke, the next session, 11 o'clock. Who's on and what are we talking about?
The next session at 11 o'clock, we have cognitive issues in senior dogs, and we're going to see Dr. Danny. So this is really great. Great information that'll be shared. Oh, I do need to tell you one more thing real fast.
Yes.
If you have a puppy and you have an older dog, for nutritional reasons, always err, and you want to feed them the same thing, always err on the puppy. Okay, so always feed what's best for the puppy for their growth and development in those early years. That's it.
All right, you guys. Thanks, Brooke, for joining. Join us back in 3 minutes for our next session on cognitive health.